one of the things that we were talking about yesterday that I wanted to ask you about is, does your contract status matter at all when you're preparing for a season? And what I mean by that is, do you look at it and say, oh, there's only 1 year left on my deal? Do you stray away from philosophy? Or do you say, well, this is the way that we've been doing it, my contract shouldn't matter on how we do it the upcoming season?
Yeah, definitely the latter. I mean, this is not the – I've had times when I was 6 months past my contract in my career. I've been in the last year a bunch of times, so it can't affect it. I mean, I just say the same thing over and over, which is, I'm employed by the Ricketts to sign players and build a team as best I can. Sometimes that's thinking about the future entirely. We've done it at times. Sometimes that's blending them. Sometimes that's really saying, okay, now is the right time. And really that's what is going to determine that the actions we make is like, what is the right thing for this team, for this organization? I mean, listen, I've been doing this a long time. I've been here 14 years now. For me, I'm such a small part of the Cubs and the Cubs ecosystem, and it's all about the fans and the players. And so that's my job, is to do the best job I can for this entity, and I don't think about my own stuff. But at the same time, I think we're in a really competitive window, and I think we have a chance to be really good.
Okay, good. Because I was wondering on how urgency would match kind of where you guys are at. How do you feel about what the last 4 years have built up to this point? And do you look at it maybe more favorably than I do, or fans would, when they see seasons where you guys have come close but have fallen short? How do you view that and try to make positive change for the roster and for the team inside of the philosophy of what it is that what you guys want to do?
Well, I think that when, even going back to, taking the job, and obviously I was here before, but when Theo stepped away, I was aware of the hard decisions we were going to make at the end of COVID. I was aware that, this group of players that led us to a ton of success before, I was aware that we were going to have to, trade those guys, and that we were going to have to kind of start things over. And so for me, I look at it and I think the organization's in great position, whether it's me or not me. I look at it like, we have a really good farm system. We have a ton of talent on the team. We've got really clean books financially. I think we're well positioned. That was not going to happen overnight. I actually, 2023 for me was really fun. The ending wasn't fun, but I wasn't expecting in that year to be ready to almost make the playoffs, and that was a little bit early. Last year, I'd say the opposite. I felt like 23 was a little bit early. I thought last year, I thought we had a really good chance to make the playoffs, and we stumbled in those months. But I think where we are as an organization, from talent to prospects to clean books, we're in great position, and now it's time to go forward and hopefully win a lot.
We're with Jed Hoyer, President of Baseball Operations for the Cubs. All right, so if we see what we deem philosophical change or evolution, we won't ascribe it to contract status. That said, I wonder if your philosophy has changed at all in a couple of ways. One is with the bullpen. I've largely agreed with the philosophy of just they're hard to predict. They change every year. You can fix and build guys, and you guys have. And you need a lot of arms, and I know that's still the case. But having a legit pencil-em-in closer from day one, is that a philosophy that it might be time to embrace?
Yeah, I mean, listen, in the last, I've been here a long time, but we traded for Aroldis Chapman. We traded Jorge Soler for Wade Davis. We signed Brandon Morrow. We signed Craig Kimbrell. We don't not believe in the position, and I think that, going back on a bunch of different decisions. So I do think there's a lot of value. I think that, obviously the last few years we haven't done that. We've tried to build it from within. I think we had some success doing that in 2022. At different times in the last 2 years we've had success, but we did stumble early in the season, and that was problematic. And I do ascribe that more to depth, honestly, than I do to not having a pencil-in closer. But, I mean, my point is, do I believe in the position? Do I believe there's a thing? Absolutely. And, of course, I think there's benefit to that in a lot of different ways.
All right. And then at the end of 2022, I remember doing a roundtable thing on Marquee and asking everybody, so what do the Cubs need? And every single person, who was a beat writer or whatever, said a superstar. Really need a superstar. And here we are a couple years later, and maybe Kyle Tucker is that superstar, which is super exciting. Do you think it matters? Do you think he'll matter in that regard? What's the effect of a superstar?
So, I don't think having a superstar matters. I think it matters having players play like stars, if that makes any sense. Like, the name doesn't matter, right? If the name produces 3 wins in a given year, like the back of that guy's jersey didn't produce anything, right? It matters how guys play, right? And I look back, like, Cody Bellinger played like a superstar in 2023. You know, he was unbelievable. I think that, you know, he tapered off a little bit at the end, but for really like 3 months in the middle of the summer, he carried us. And to me, like I'll say it in sort of analytic terms, like all year, like we have no one that's projected to be a 5-win player. We have no one that's projected to be that kind of player. Kyle Tucker is clearly that kind of guy. And I do think it matters. I think that, you know, consolidating those wins in one position makes a big difference, you know. Mm-hmm. And I feel like our roster was built in a way it had a lot of, I'm going to call it 3.5 win players around the diamond, but we didn't have anyone that was sort of projected to carry more of that. And I think so that's how I look at it. Like, I think there's a danger in name recognition. I don't think that matters. I think what matters is production. And I think having someone that has a chance to be in the MVP race, has a chance to be a 5+ win player, that's what matters. I think Kyle Tucker is definitely that guy.
But you guys have smart players. Some of your players who are 3.5 win players could say, oh, but that guy's a 5-win player. And like it takes some pressure off them psychologically, conceivably. True?
Yeah, I do think. I felt this when I remember being in San Diego. In my first year, we had Adrian Gonzalez, and the second year we didn't. And I do think it takes some pressure off guys in the lineup. And I think there is a mentality of having a guy that, you know, a legit middle-of-the-order bat that can cover some mistakes, I guess is the best way I would say it. That can take the pressure off some of the guys. I do think that can make a difference. And again, I didn't play in the big leagues. You know, you talk to players about their mentality in game, and I think that's something they definitely talk about.
President of Baseball Operations for the Cubs, Jed Hoyer, joining the Spiegel Holmes Show here on The Score. With Tucker, I was hoping you can kind of walk us through like real versus imagine. So like we'll see that you guys went one way, he went another way. Oh, this might go to arbitration. It didn't. You guys got a deal done, which a lot of teams end up doing. Does any of that stuff actually matter? Have you ever seen a case where something going to arbitration leads to bad feelings by a player?
Not with a team I've been a part of, but I certainly, like, from a media standpoint, you definitely hear about relationships that got tarnished in arbitration. I guess I would say it like this. Like, we've gone to hearings with people. We went to a hearing with Ian Happ, and, you know, I think that's part of the process at times. But I think, you know, if 23, 24 years I've been doing this, and I probably settled, you know, all but 1 or 2 or 3 cases. You want to get settlements. I think that's the goal. I wasn't concerned about the Tucker situation. I kind of knew where we were. I got a sense there was a desire on both sides to get a deal done. I think sometimes those are you kind of dread that, you know, okay, I know we're exchanging numbers and now everyone's going to go crazy and, you know, how can you not sign this guy? And I think arbitration is a very complicated process. There's the agent, there's the player, there's us, but like, you're not alone in this process, right? Like, if I chose to say, hey, you know what, like, I really value him and I want to pay him $8 million more than you know we gave him, you can't do that, right? Like, it's an entire process built on precedent, right? And so it's not just about your feelings for that player. It's also about, you know, 25, 30 years of precedent on who gets what kind of raises, and, you know, 3+ players and 4+ players and 5+ players. And so it's very complicated. And I think sometimes, you know, it takes exchanging numbers to finally get a deal done. But
so count me as one of those guys who went a little crazy, who saw the $2.5 million gap and was like, what are we doing?
Strangely enough, I didn't.
I know you didn't. You didn't. I know. It's usually not the way we do it. You know, we usually good cop, bad cop things in a different way. But, like, I went a little crazy. I'm like, man, you're just trying to make an impression. You're trying to, like, we're building a relationship. It's step one of saying, look at the ivy. Isn't it lovely to play here? You know, so was he upset at all by the exchange of numbers, to your knowledge?
You know, you never know. It's a negotiation. People hold their cards close to the vest, so you never get a real feel for it. But, I mean, he's here this weekend. We got a deal done. I think we're all good, and he's moved forward from there.
How will we know that the Cubs are in a position, if things go really well, if he plays really well, that you guys will be in a position to offer him a competitive deal?
You won't know.
That's fair.
Come on, man. You heard the open. We're trying to butter you up, dude.
No.
This is when you tell us.
I mean, listen, I think obviously you trade for a player like Kyle. Is there a desire for a long relationship with that? Yeah, absolutely. He's the kind of player you want to keep for a long time. But I sort of feel like this is part of a process, right? That this is his first taste of what the Cubs are all about is pretty great, but like playing some games in Wrigley in the middle of the summer and in front of those fans, I think that's the kind of thing that that makes a huge difference. So I like to think I'm a pretty good salesman, but like I'm not even close to as good a salesman as Wrigley Field and Chicago in the summer and those things. And I think that stuff has a tendency to make a big impact.
Fair to expect some activity between now and opening day? Bench bat, bullpen, starting pitcher?
Oh, I thought you meant on Tucker. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. We're not done. We'll keep on supplementing the roster and keep looking for ways to upgrade. And for better, for worse, in my opinion, for worse, like these off seasons they just drag out now. I mean, there's 100-plus players still on the free agent market, a lot of good players. And so it used to be that Cubs convention, we were a tweak away. Sometimes you're almost done this time of year. That's not how it's evolved. Now it just takes forever. And so, yeah, there's definitely more additions on the way before we get there. And it's a really early spring training this year, too, with Japan. I mean, I think we're heading out there the 8th or the 9th, and it feels early, which is kind of fun.
Jed, thanks so much for the time. We appreciate you
Always.
stopping by.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate your honesty, for sure.
Right.
Craig, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it. We know you're busy. Bob Uecker, when you think about him, what comes to mind?
Well, dear friend, that's first. I mean, I was super fortunate to be able to spend a lot of time with him, and frankly, for him just to become a friend. So I'm. Yesterday was a rough day, and he's had a rough go of it for a little while here. But what a run! I mean, what a life! He taught me about living. I can tell you that.
Pat Murphy shared that after they lost that last game with the Alonso homer, that they were kind of in tears in the manager's office thinking about Ueck. None of us really knew that Ueck had been struggling for a couple of years. But he showed up every day and went strong, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, all last season he showed up every day, which was really, in hindsight, pretty amazing. But that's how he was. I mean, he loved coming to the park. He loved being one of the guys. That meant the world to him. That meant everything to him. And he'd come to the park, and it was still like, this guy's world-class funny. I mean, he was a comedic genius. He always had it. You always just marveled at it, his sense of timing and his wit.
You must have shared a private joke or 10 with him over the years.
Oh, my God.
Like he would come back at you with something. What are you thinking of?
It would always be like, we'd do like a 3-minute pregame show every home game, right? And so many times, like, I would say something, I'd be like, oh no, I could see it in his eyes, like, what did I say? Like, it's coming back at me hard right here. But that's what you loved it too.
Yeah, I mean, that's the goods. So rest in peace to Bob Uecker. Been amazing hearing everybody talk about him. When you took this job, we talked about all the different parts of the org where you might be able to help. And I remember you saying a series of small decisions, like we'll call kind of all add up, hopefully. And I'm wondering now, with a season of collaboration under your belt, what areas of the org have you found yourself kind of wanting to help with more, if any?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really, decision-making in organizations, baseball organizations, sports organizations, there has to be a lot of people involved. It's a big process, and getting them right. There's people putting a lot of brain power into getting these decisions right. So, I'm really proud of I think, like, just being a part of it a little more. I really wasn't a part of last offseason in a major role. Just I was here. I was late to the party, essentially, is the best way to say it.
Yeah.
So it had already progressed pretty good. But I think it's been fun being a part of it this year, and I think our process has been really, really good. And hopefully, as we continue through the offseason, it continues to produce good results.
How do you balance? You're the field manager. You're the guy that has to deal with the 26 guys every day. You've got to do that. How do you balance the things that you might need on a particular day or series or week or month versus what the organization might want going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, this is where, like, you got to have to collaborate. I mean, I understand that there's a better frame of mind for, like, Jed or Carter to make some decisions, and then some decisions that you have to make immediately. Like, that's my job to make those decisions. So, and we help you know, in the end, someone has to make the decision, but you help each other get to that point. And so that's kind of my job right now. These are Jed, these are Carter's decisions, and I'm there to help. And then sometimes during the game, it's the opposite, right?
So, you know, we talked to Jed earlier, and we're like, all right, what philosophies might evolve here? How about the bullpen one? You need a lot of arms, a big pile of arms, but do you need that one? Would it be easier if from day one you had that one pencil-it-in closer where you're like, all right, that's just my guy, and then I just don't have to worry about that while I'm sorting everything else out? Has that philosophy evolved at all for you or not?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody wants it that way, right? I mean, that means you have a player there that's like so good that you don't really have any questions, and they're doing the job. And I think that's every manager, every organization would love to have.
La Russa wanted Eckersley, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So I think it's not always it's hard to find those guys, and there's not a ton of them. They're out there, and they're well paid, and so you have to try to figure out a way to get them. Other teams want them, so there's no question. I think depth is a part of it, and you know, and you want, it's not just depth; it's got to be quality too. There's no question about it. I think what you're saying is, you know, we need to add quality, and I think you're trying to do that as the offseason goes, and that's going to be important.
We know, like, the things that we'll look at from afar and be like, man, that could be really cool for the Cubs this season. What are you excited about when you look at the organization and the roster?
Yeah, I mean, I think seasons that you know, go really well for a team. When you're sitting there in October, you're saying, I didn't expect this to happen, and usually that comes from young players, because those are the guys that are growing the most. And I think we have just a big group of young players that I don't know the name yet, but that are going to burst onto the scene here.
You can tell us. You can tell us.
But there's enough of them where I think we got a good, and a lot of them spent time in AAA last year, so they're not coming from, you know, A-ball, and I think that group, who makes the impact, who knows, but we're going to need some of those guys that we're not really counting on today to make that impact, to make an impact.
How did you view what happened with PCA at the end of the season? Because there seemed to be a ton of growth.
Yeah, I mean, I think he had a second half of the season that was pretty special. You know, we want development to just go straight on a straight line. His kind of, you know, it looked like it was going the wrong way, frankly, earlier in the season, and then it went straight up for a good 2 months, right? And then it maybe leveled off right at the end. But that's how he got there. There's a transition to the league that's difficult, that almost every player goes through. You know, I think we're trying to shorten it, absolutely. We're trying to even that out a little bit. But Pete, it kind of like the way Pete's season went is kind of the player that he is right now. And I think that's okay. I think those edges will kind of smooth out, and we're hoping we get a consistent, really good player.
We're with Craig Counsell here on the Spiegel Holmes Show. Last week of the year, when you said we should be in the business of building 90-win teams, the we was doing a lot of work there, because, like, I kind of sat here like, hey, do you feel like Jed and Carter built you a 90-win team? That's not really a fair question, because you're part of it. Do you feel like you guys have built a 90-win team, or do you feel like by opening day you will have built a 90-win team? Yeah,
I mean, I think we've got work to do still, and we're going to try to get there. Absolutely. I mean, that's and 90-win is I'm using that as a number. That's as the playoff number. You know, it's not it doesn't necessarily, but it's a playoff number, right? It's the playoffs, and that's what it takes to. And I think it takes a team like that to really compete at the World Series level. And so that's what I absolutely think the standard should be. It should be the expectation, and we should run from that.
Dansby was on our air earlier today, and he talked about his hernia and dealing with that. I'd love to know, from a manager's point of view, I know that you love the guy that always wants to go out there.
Yeah.
But how do you manage a guy that and say, look, I want you to play, but we want the best of you too, and he's so ingrained to go. Is there any way that you can make him stop and maybe bring you guys into the process a little bit more when he's really hurting?
Yeah, I mean, those are difficult, like, management questions, no question, and they're managing people and trying to figure it out. You know, and Dansby's had, you know, I actually think, you know, Dansby's, the hernia stuff was aggravating for sure, and I think he really grinded through it. I think when he was probably grinding through it the most, he was really playing pretty well. I think the knee probably gave him more troubles when he was struggling, and I think it cost him some production. But the hernia, I think, was just really aggravating every day to have to kind of like grind through that. I think he did a fabulous job of doing it, but he certainly went through some just never feeling like taking the field super fresh, if that makes sense. You know, never, and he was kind of grinding through every day, and that eventually that just takes a toll on you through the course of a season.
So, got to ask you about something, Craig. 34 total sacrifice bunts in your last 6 seasons with Milwaukee, including 0 in 2020, because there's no time to bunt with that short season. 7 bunts in 23. Last year, 17 with the Cubs. What happened to you? Like, have you changed? I mean, like, why were the massive jump in bunts? Explain yourself, sir.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I think, look, there were days last year at Wrigley Field where the home run was not part of the game. And you play baseball without a home run, it's a different game. And then the bunt becomes a lot more valuable if there's no such thing as a home run. And so, you know, I think at times you knew you were in a really low run scoring environment. I mean, when you're in run scoring environments like that, then one run, it absolutely means a little bit more. Yeah. So I think part of it was a nod to that. Look, there was a couple moments during the season we just weren't scoring runs. I mean, we squeezed 2 plays in a row in Tampa.
Dude, I was just thinking about that game as you talked about it. It was awesome.
We were just trying to find some runs as we were struggling. So, you know, there's no question. I think some of the bunting probably happened a little bit during that phase of the season, and I think some of it is a really nod to the weather conditions at times.
When Christian Yelich was one of the best 3 or 4 players in baseball and you wrote down his name every day, how did that feel? And might it feel that way to write down Kyle Tucker's name every day? Yeah,
I mean, I think, you know, the impact it has on it's just you're getting just a force every day with 4 or 5 plate appearances. That's just an absolute force. And it doesn't matter the pitcher, it doesn't matter the matchup. Like the other team is scared to death for it to come up, and you know you can impact a game. So it's that consistency of just really good offense that players like Kyle provide.
You're a contemporary with Sammy. What's it like to know that Sammy's going to be here at Cubs convention?
Yeah, I mean, I think it should be a thrill for Cubs fans because it was I think Sammy as not only a great baseball player but an entertainer at Wrigley Field for all those summers was something to behold. He was an entertainer, man. Like the way he did it was with some joy, and I think the fans all felt that.
You were living here for some of that, right?
I did, man, and it was pretty amazing. He did it with it was very unique how he did it, and I think if you can, however, whatever emotion you elicit from fans, you know, some guys do it with the grinder, some guys do it with like eliciting joy. Like I think if you can elicit emotion from your Cubs fans or your baseball fans, those are special players because that means there's a true connection with the player and the fan. What do
you think of Breakfast Ball, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Fox Sports with our boy Danny Parkins? Yeah, any review?
Danny and I texted yesterday. Actually, I want to. Well, you know, Danny was great on the radio.
That's fair. That's fair.
That is an accurate statement.
I mean, wasn't he great on the radio?
I agree with that.
He was. He was
Great on the
definitely
radio.
great on the radio.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that.
Oh man,
I like his jackets a lot.
no, he's killing it.
He's stepped up his style game.
He's absolutely killing
And I was
it.
concerned about that.
Were you?
Honestly, yeah. I was concerned. Because he's not he doing radio. It can lull you into just wearing hoodies. And so he was going to be on TV, and I was like, how's this going to work? And then someone cut his hair, and they gave him a jacket, and he looks good.
Well, he's got people for that now. You know?
He does. That's the next level.
You don't get people in radio, do you?
No.
Trust me. All right, last thing, Notre Dame, Ohio State. They got a shot Monday night or what?
I think they do. I mean, it's been fun to watch. I've enjoyed watching it, and Ohio State's great, and they'll be the underdogs. I think that's what they want to be, and so I can't wait to watch.
I look forward to Marcus Freeman throwing out the first pitch at Wrigley later on this year.
I look forward to that too.
That's going to be a thing.
That's awesome.
Get on that. I'm talking to
Craig,
your people.
Thank you so much for giving us some time. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, that was fun.
Thanks,
you.
Craig.
All right.
Jameson Taillon is here. He looks great. You had a wonderful offseason from what you were telling us during the break. How'd it go?
It's been good. It's been a mix of hard work and some, fun, some trips, family time. You got to fit a lot into an off seasons. There's always, baseball weddings, trips. Got to make the families happy and do the holidays and all that. So it's been really good. And then now, obviously, once the calendar flips, it's kind of time to turn it on and get really focused on baseball.
Spoken like a veteran in his 30s. So what baseball weddings did you go to? Because that's when you guys have to schedule them. Right?
You know what? Actually, this year I turned a few down because we were in Italy for a delayed honeymoon. So
lovely.
I already have a few on the books for next offseason, though. So my offseason next year is already going fast.
Oh, wow. And this offseason is kind of going fast, too, because you guys start in Japan.
Yeah. Our report date, I just saw the report dates come out. We're first in baseball, reporting first. So that's exciting. We get to kick it off, and obviously in Japan it's going to be incredible.
Did you change anything with the earlier date, or was your offseason a regular offseason?
Pretty regular. I actually didn't take much time off of throwing, but that was more just a personal choice. When I shut it down, I just tend to take a long time building back up. So this year I was like, what if I just don't shut it down for that long and just kind of keep it going? So I just opted to do that.
So did you throw in Italy? You're in Italy for 2 weeks. Did you find a place to throw?
So kind of. I have this throwing sock. I don't know if you've ever seen one. You tape it around your hand, and you can throw and release it into this sock-like item.
So you can do it in a hotel room.
Yeah, I was doing it in some pretty cool locations. And it's not quite as good as throwing, but it's better than nothing.
Did you shoot video, or did your wife shoot video of you doing it?
Yeah, I got some cool videos, and there's one in Florence, looking out at the river right there. I'm just launching it into a sock. So,
what was the best thing you ate?
Ooh, you know what? Just meat and cheese. And wine.
Dude, the cheese and the dairy over there, it's different, isn't it?
Hey, and I'm one of the guys. I went over there, I ate, I drank, and I lost some weight. I came back, I was like, I should just go to Italy every year.
Because you hear the stories about this all the time, where maybe things here are made with different stuff. You go over there, and you eat, you feel fine. And I know people that can't eat bread here, and then they go over there, and they can eat all the bread.
I'm telling you, there's something over there. I came back a changed man.
Did you really? Spiritually?
Yeah.
Something happened over there? That's awesome. You know what? You had an unbelievable year, though. I think did you think it was your best year since 2018? That's the way I've seen it written about. You had a 3.27 ERA, 28 starts, 165.1 innings pitched. On the books, it's your best year in the last 6.
Yeah, I was proud of the year. It's just interesting because I didn't feel any better or worse than other years necessarily. Sometimes you just get on a run, and for me, my cutter got pretty hot in the summer, and I just rode that, and it ended up, leading to some really nice numbers. But, I feel like every year as you become a veteran kind of feels somewhat similar. But the results were there this year, and obviously, I felt a little lucky. I had some amazing defense played behind me. Gold glovers everywhere, guys who were just incredible. So I do feel like I had some good fortune, too.
Yeah, maybe, we've heard so much about the weather hurting the offense. You think the weather at Wrigley helped you at all this year? You buying that?
I can remember for sure O'Neal Cruz on the Pirates hit a ball 112 miles an hour at 35, and it was caught at the warning track. That's a homer, 30 of 30, you need wind on your side there. But it's interesting because, like, overall, it definitely hurt hitting and helped pitching.
Yeah.
But, like, some days you go out there and it's howling out, and other days it's howling in. So it's just hit or miss.
Your last 5 starts, a 0.84 ERA. All 5 were quality starts. I mean, like, does finishing great like that matter, or are you a veteran enough that it wouldn't?
I think it matters in the sense, like, you're peaking at a good time. Like, if we were to find our way into a playoff spot, that you're playing your best baseball and pitching your best baseball at the end of the year. And I think for me, it's like a little bit of a reinforcement that I was training the right way and putting myself in a position to peak at the right time. So, yeah, I mean, it definitely leaves a nice taste in your mouth going into the offseason, but I think it was more just a testament to, like, our training staff and strength staff to, like, help me get in a position to finish strong.
It's so interesting. Your players feel like you get drafted or whatever, like this is going to be your home forever. And that doesn't happen because there's the business of baseball. If I'm speaking for you out of turn, please let me know. But it feels like you found something with this franchise. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. You know, a lot of that's relationships. So for me, like, Tommy Hodavy's been incredible. He made me feel comfortable from day one coming over here. Great pitching coach. Being on the same page as the catchers and just having a really tight-knit bond with all the pitching staff. And, you know, I hang out with our position players a ton too, and we, you know, share ideas and stuff. So I think a lot of that's just like the family environment that we have within the organization. So, yeah, it's a great place to be. So, yeah, I mean, but for me, like, you know, I had a tough year in 2023 and then 2024, Tommy, and I just have that relationship that's kind of developed and, you know, grown. So we know how we both like to work and that sort of thing. So I definitely feel like there's something there.
When your manager said in the final week that we should be in the situation of building 90-win teams, that felt good for a lot of fans to hear. I wondered if you guys as a team felt like that was him having your back. Some could see it as questioning the roster, but how did it feel for you?
Yeah, I mean, as a player, like, we didn't accomplish what we wanted to accomplish. So, you know, I think it's healthy to acknowledge that and just to, you know, say it out loud. Like, we need to expect, like, within the building. For me, it wasn't him having our back or not having our back. For me, it was a message of, like, hey, we have a standard here, and we need to reach that. Like, that's our goal. Our goal isn't to try to play good. No, our goal is to win and put a winning team on the field. And that 90-win mark should get you into the playoffs. So, for me, it was kind of just a wake-up call, and, like, that's our standard at Wrigley Field. When we show up, we're here to win.
What's it like to pitch against Kyle Tucker?
Not fun. Don't look up his numbers against me. Or if you do, don't do it in front of me.
I'm not going to do it in front of you. Well, we just wanted to know what kind of player the Cubs are getting here.
Yeah, he's a stud. He's hard to game plan against. I know he's hit a homer off me, I think, on a cutter inside. But then he's also hit a really hard double on a fastball off the plate away. So there's just a lot of coverage. He's big. He's athletic. He can cover a lot of different areas of the zone. He's really fast. He's a good defender. So as a pitcher, when you're doing your scouting reports and video work, you look for holes you can exploit. And with him, it's like not many areas you can go. You just try to work around him maybe a little bit.
We have your manager coming up next. Would you like to suggest a question as we're getting ready to be joined by Craig Counsell? Anything you would like to know that we can ask?
No.
You know, you can set up a buffer between you and him.
We were just talking about some good food spots over there, so maybe best dinner of the offseason.
Okay, all right.
Jameson, thank you so much.
Yeah,
we really
thank you,
appreciate
guys.
you coming by.
Great